My name is Alyssa Carter, and I want to tell you something that took me 2 years of silence, sacrifice, and swallowed pride to finally understand love without respect is just labor with a prettier name. Welcome to Revenge Chronicles, where real stories of real women remind us all that quiet doesn't mean weak, and patient doesn't mean forever. This is my story. I married Ethan believing that commitment meant showing up, even when it was hard, even when it was thankless, even when the person you were showing up for didn't notice. I was 32, successful, steady, running consulting contracts that paid well and paid quietly. I didn't flash money. I didn't make announcements. I just handled things because that's what I believed a partner did. What I didn't understand then, what I couldn't see until it was nearly too late, was that my silence had been mistaken for something else entirely. They thought I was invisible. They thought I was furniture. They thought that, because I never demanded credit, I had no power at all. The night everything changed started like any other. The ceiling fan hummed in the living room, calm and indifferent, the way it always did. Marianne, my mother-in-law, sat at the head of the dining table, a table I had been quietly paying for every single month, and folded her hands in her lap like a judge preparing to deliver mercy. She smiled when she said it. That's the part ones still think about. She actually smiled. "You'll need to move out," she said, her voice sweet and unhurried, like she was doing me a favor. "My oldest daughter, Lauren, and her husband are ready to start a family. They need the space." I waited. I sat completely still and waited for my husband, Ethan, to say something, to defend me, to at least look uncomfortable. He didn't. He just sat there, eyes slightly down, hands wrapped around a glass he hadn't touched, and said absolutely nothing. And in that silence, I learned everything I needed to know about the man I had married. Marian leaned a little closer across that table. "You understand, don't you? It's just temporary. You can figure something out. Temporary. Like my place in that home had always been conditional. Like 2 years of holding that household together meant nothing more than a short-term lease that had finally expired." I nodded. I even smiled back. I told her I'd start looking for somewhere else. And I meant it, just not in the way she thought. What Marian didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had been contributing $6,600 every single month in household expenses. Mortgage contributions, utility bills, home renovations she bragged about to every friend she had, the internet, the security system, the gardener, the soft beige couch she loved more than she loved acknowledging my existence. I had paid for all of it, quietly, consistently, without complaint, because I had believed that marriage was a partnership and not a scoreboard. When Ethan lost his job 2 years earlier, I didn't panic. I stepped forward. I told myself that strong relationships bend under pressure before they break, and I was willing to bend. I covered expenses for a while, then a little longer, then everything. Marian had framed it in the beginning as family helping family. Her daughter Lauren would drop by and laugh. Must be nice having a rich sister-in-law. I always laughed back. I always did. The truth was uglier than anyone wanted to say out loud. My income wasn't flashy, it was steady. Consulting contracts, quiet money, direct deposits that never made noise. Ethan's pride couldn't survive the visibility of being supported by his wife, so we agreed that all bills would flow from our shared account, even though every transfer came from mine alone. Over time, I stopped being a wife. I became infrastructure. Useful. Invisible. Essential in the way that electricity is essential. Nobody thinks about it until it's gone. That night, after Marianne delivered her verdict and Ethan stayed silent and the ceiling fan kept humming like nothing had broken, I went upstairs and folded laundry with completely steady hands. I listened to my husband breathe beside me while he slept like a man without a single complicated thought in his head. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just made a decision in the quiet dark, the kind of decision that doesn't need to announce itself because it already knows exactly where it's going. The next morning, I made coffee. I kissed Ethan on the cheek. I waited until the front door closed behind him. Then I picked up my phone. "Hi," I said calmly when they answered. "I need movers today. Full packing service." As I hung up the call, I stood in the middle of that living room and looked at everything around me, The floors I had paid to refinish last winter, the walls I had paid to repaint, the furniture I had selected and purchased and quietly carried on my own budget for years, and something inside me settled into absolute clarity. This was not me being pushed out. This was me choosing exactly how to leave. And they had absolutely no idea what was about to happen. By noon, the house sounded completely different. Drawers opening, tape ripping, cardboard scraping against the hardwood floors I had paid to restore. The movers were professional, fast, efficient, quiet, everything I had trained myself to be inside that marriage. Box by box, the life I had built and funded was being carefully wrapped in brown paper and carried out the front door. Ethan came home early. I was sealing the last box in the bedroom when I heard his footsteps stop cold in the hallway, that thick silence of a man who walks into a room expecting one reality and finds another. Then, Alyssa, what is this? I didn't turn around right away. I'm moving out, I said. He actually laughed. One sharp, disbelieving sound. You're being dramatic. Mom said you had time. And there it was. Mom said, not we'll figure this out. Not are you okay? Not I should have defended you, and I'm sorry. Just Mom said. Instructions passed down like policy, like I was a scheduling conflict and not his wife. I turned around and looked at him then. Really looked at his face, searching for something, panic, guilt, urgency, anything that resembled a man who understood what was crumbling around him. What I found instead was irritation. Mild, low-grade irritation, like I had rearranged his routine without asking permission first. You didn't defend me, I said. Calmly. No raised voice, no trembling lip. Just the plain truth laid flat between us. Not once. He rubbed his face with both hands. Lauren needs space. You don't even want kids right now, so I don't qualify for a home. I asked. That's not what I meant, he said. But it was exactly what he meant. It was precisely, completely, entirely what he meant, and we both knew it. He followed me downstairs, watching in silence as strangers moved efficiently through the rooms, wrapping our shared life in brown paper. When the movers lifted the dining table, his voice dropped low. Wait, why are they taking that? I paused. Let the moment breathe. Because I bought it, I said. Like most things in here. He stared at me. What do you mean most things? I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and held the screen between us. Not angry. Not shaking. Just factual. The way you present evidence. The way you let numbers do the talking that words never could. His face drained slowly, piece by piece, the color leaving like water leaving a glass. You paid for all of this? I smiled faintly. You never asked. That was the moment Marianne's car pulled into the driveway. And for the first time in 2 years, I didn't feel my stomach tighten at the sound of it. I didn't feel the familiar brace of a woman preparing to make herself smaller. I felt ready. Marianne walked in smiling, the confident, wide smile of a woman who believed she was still running the board. She stopped the moment she crossed the threshold. The living room was empty. Walls bare. Floors echoing. The couch she had loved to settle into like a throne gone. Her smile didn't disappear all at once. It twitched, recalibrated, tried to find its footing. What's going on? She asked, looking between Ethan and me. Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, looked at me. I stepped forward before either of them could recover their composure. I'm moving out today, I said simply. Her eyes narrowed. That's completely unnecessary. We said you had time. I repeated softly. Funny. I don't remember agreeing to any of this. She scoffed, pivoting into the tone she used when she wanted to make a grown woman feel like a child throwing a tantrum. Don't be childish. You're upset. We'll talk after dinner. Then she saw the movers carrying her couch through the front door. Her couch. The one she had pointed to in a catalog, and I had quietly ordered and paid for and never once mentioned. Stop them, she snapped. One of the movers looked at me. I gave a small nod. They kept moving. Marian turned to face me fully now, voice sharpening into something harder. You cannot just take things that belong to this house. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. Neat, tabbed, organized, the kind of document you prepare when you already know how a conversation is going to end. Receipts. Bank transfers. Dates. Every quiet, consistent, unacknowledged payment I had made across 2 full years. They belonged to me, I said. Legally. The color left her face the same way it had left Ethan's. Lauren arrived minutes later, walked through the front door expecting to step into the beginning of her new life, and instead stepped into an empty room with bare walls and the sound of tape being pulled from a dispenser in the back hallway. She laughed nervously, the way people laugh when they're hoping something is a joke. Is this a joke? I met her eyes steadily. No, you're getting the house. She blinked, looked around. Then why is it empty? And that was the moment it finally landed for all of them at once. The house wasn't being handed over. It was being returned to its original condition, stripped of everything I had brought into it, everything I had funded, everything I had quietly held together while they planned a future that didn't include me. The truth had my name written all over it, and now they were standing in the middle of it with nowhere left to look. That night I checked into a quiet hotel across town. I ordered room service, I barely touched and spread everything across the bed like pieces of a chessboard, documents, account records, contracts, the invisible financial skeleton of a household that had run on my money and my silence for 2 years. I didn't feel sad. I felt surgical. By morning I called my accountant, then my lawyer. Clean conversations, no dramatics, just clarity and numbers. I learned exactly how much I had contributed over 24 months. When my lawyer read the total figure aloud, it almost felt unreal to hear it spoken as a single sum. Then I did something I had never done before in that marriage. I stopped. I paused every utility payment, every subscription, every auto transfer flowing out of accounts they had never thought to question because the money had always just been there. All paused, all documented. By noon, Ethan was calling, then texting, then calling again. I didn't respond to a single one. Instead, I drafted one email, polite, professional, precise, and forwarded it directly to Marianne. It explained, clearly and without emotion, that effective immediately, I would no longer be funding household expenses for a residence I had been formally asked to vacate. No insults, no threats, just consequences. The kind that arrive quietly and land loudly. By the 3rd day, the house began unraveling on its own. Electricity first, then internet, then the security monitoring she had bragged about to her neighbors, the streaming accounts, the gardener. The comfortable, carefully maintained life she had built on a foundation she never bothered to look at because she never had to was now fully visible in its absence. A week later, my lawyer called with news that changed everything. During the financial review, something had surfaced that Marian had never anticipated. Several of the major renovations and payments over the years had been processed in my name specifically for tax efficiency, her suggestion at the time, waved off casually as paperwork that didn't really matter. It mattered. Legally, formally, and completely, it mattered. A portion of that house wasn't just funded by me. It was partially mine. When the legal notice arrived, Marian didn't scream. She didn't threaten. She went silent. The deep, airless silence of someone who finally understands that the power they thought they held was never really theirs. Ethan sent one last message. I didn't know it would end like this. I typed back the only honest thing left to say. Neither did I. You just chose not to know. They sold the house quietly, without announcements, without the family gathering Marianne had imagined. Lauren moved somewhere smaller. The hosting stopped. The family story rewrote itself, and my name simply wasn't in it anymore. Not as a footnote, not as a cautionary tale, just gone. And me? I signed a lease on an apartment filled only with things I had chosen for myself. I paid every bill gladly, because every bill was mine. No gratitude required from anyone. No permission needed from anyone. No silence owed to anyone. I wasn't pushed out of that life. I was released from it. And everything I built after that, every quiet, steady, unshakable piece of it, that didn't echo. Welcome to Revenge Chronicles. If this story reached something in you, stay with us, because every week, we bring you another story of a woman who was underestimated and exactly what happened next.